folks, welcome back. So today I gotta tell you the insane story that's come out in the last couple weeks about the Shroyer family. This is all allegedly so far, but it's looking like we have another murder for hire plot that went disastrously bad. So let's get to know the Shroyer family. It's made up of Jackie Shroyer, the mom, Bo Shroyer, the dad, both 44 years old. They have 5 children together. Up until 2021, they lived in Minnesota. Oh, yeah, sure. Don't you know? Doing the Midwest thing. For a while, Bo Shroyer was a realtor. Then he became a police officer, and then in 2021, both Bo and Jackie Shroyer decided they're going to uproot the entire Shroyer family, all 5 kids, and move the entire Shroyer crew to Angola, West Africa, to do mission work as part of the church they're members of in Minnesota. I've been thinking about it the past couple days. That's a hell of a move to put your family through. Picture telling your kids, hey kids, your mother and I have some very exciting news. After doing a lot of thinking and a lot of soul searching and a lot of discussing, we have decided as a family we're all going to move. Where are we moving, Daddy? A picturesque, serene farm or a bustling American city? No, actually, the ghetto in Angola, West Africa. But it's still going to be very fun, and that's exactly what they did. The whole Shroyer family, all 7 of them, packed up in 2021 and moved to Angola. The government in Angola knew they were coming as part of the mission, and they let them stay in this big house compound building as their house and also the headquarters for the mission while they were there. Jackie Shroyer did an interview at some point, and she has quotes saying things like the first year were really hard. They didn't speak the language. Someone in the family pretty much at all times had malaria. The whole first year was just a blur of stress and trauma and horrible through-the-roof crime. Jackie said that armed robberies and carjackings and homicides were really common in the area where their house compound mission headquarters were, and they were having such security issues and break-ins that they were forced to hire private security guards through a local security company. And there was a quote that Jackie had, something like, we went through a lot of security guards before we found the right fit. And when they did find 3 young, like early 20s security guards that did work out for them, all right, this does feel like the right fit. Apparently, the security guards quit working for the local security company and just started being paid directly from the Shroyers. So instead of the Shroyers paying the security company that they worked for, and then that company taking a big chunk and then paying the young early 20s security guards not as much, they just quit the company. All right, now we're just work for you independently. We're the Shroyers security team. And so they got that going. I think 24/7 they had to have those security guards there. Another kind of interesting part of the story is there was a big field right next to their house compound mission headquarters that a company used to grow oranges, but Angola is such a poor, hungry country that oranges are like gold. You can eat them, you can sell them, and so the crime that was created from people trying to steal the oranges, stealing the oranges. Apparently the company growing all the oranges had 50 security guards all night. People were being shot dead while stealing oranges, like a really rough area in Angola. Sad stuff. And some of the mission work that it's come out that Bo was doing sounds pretty good. There's a lot of children. This is about as heartbreaking as it gets. Apparently, there's a lot of children in Angola that have no one, no parents. They're orphans. They're just feral children that have nothing and have no one to look out for them or anything. So they started once a week making a big old pot of soup with bread to hand out to all of these kids that don't have anything. And after it was going for a little bit, almost 300 of these kids would show up for a bowl of soup. So that sounds really good. Apparently, Bo Shroyer heard that a couple kids were walking 2 hours to school or something crazy. And so Bo had this awesome white Land Cruiser Prado that he would go and pick them up and drive them to school. And there's a picture of Bo hanging out of his Prado with kids on the roof rack and hanging out the front. And it sounds like they really were doing some good stuff in Angola and feeding the kids, and someone's got to do it. So that was 2021. And then recently, sounds like it was about a 3-year mission. Everything is coming to a close. They're doing debriefings. Jackie said as part of the debriefing that even though it was hard and the crime was scary and malaria and the whole thing, all of them, all 5 kids, at least according to Jackie, thought that's where they were supposed to be, and they wanted to stay in Angola and continue doing the work. But the mission was coming to an end, probably at the end of this year. And then, the end of last month in October, I think it may have been like October 25th or something, but at the end of October, about a month ago, Bo Shroyer was found brutally stabbed to death in the bush, in this remote bush area. And the people that were part of the mission, like the mission headquarters back in Minnesota, all of a sudden they hear Bo Shroyer has been brutally murdered, stabbed to death in the bush. And they're going, what the hell happened? And the statement, the first chunk of information, because they can't figure out, they can't talk, they don't speak Portuguese, so they can't talk to the local law enforcement. They can't get any word. What do you mean Bo is dead? The mission is a month or 2 from being over, and now we're hearing he's dead. What is going on? And then the first statement, the first piece of information that they get back, which I'm pretty sure was from Jackie, was that Bo died serving Jesus and that now he's with his Savior. Imagine being Bo's family or his friends as part of the mission headquarters. You hear your friend, you hear your family member is dead. What? You're in Angola? I knew they shouldn't have. And then all of a sudden, the information is this: don't worry, he died serving Jesus, and he is now with his Savior. Doesn't that sound like, yeah, nothing to see here? Yes, it is sad, but hey, listen, he's with his Savior, and he died doing what he loved. No reason to look into anything, nothing nefarious, just your classic bad news. And so for a week or 2, his family in America and the people that the mission headquarters that he was working with as part of the whole thing are going, what is going on? We want more information. Jackie, what is happening in Angola? Let us know. And then a week or 2 after that, all of a sudden, the 3 security guards that they had independently hired and Jackie, actually 2 of the security guards and Jackie, are arrested and put in jail. And the government in Angola puts out a statement that, again, this is all allegedly, but they're convinced that Jackie Shroyer was the mastermind of a plan, and she apparently, allegedly, offered the 3 young, early 20s security guards $50,000 to kill her husband, and the motive behind it is Jackie Shroyer had started having an affair a while back, it sounds like, with one of the 24-year-old security guards. And as the mission was heading towards close, they did the debriefing. All right, we got a couple months left, pretty successful. We'll go back to Minnesota and maybe we'll regroup. But this chapter is coming to an end. And allegedly, Jackie Shroyer did not want to leave Angola, did not want it to end. And her plan was to pay the security guards. One of the security guards' nickname was Vin Diesel KU, which that's the drawback of these murder for hire plots is you got to involve so many people. It's better to not have to do it yourself. I don't want to kill my husband, so I'm just going to pay these people to do it. But then all of a sudden you're connected to this 24-year-old lover. Is it really going to work out with that guy? And his friend Vin Diesel KU? You got to make sure that he doesn't squeal like a pig if he's pressured by the police. And what it sounds like, because they pretty much had no story for a week or two, and then all of a sudden they were convinced that it was Jackie Shroyer, the mastermind, $50,000 to pay her husband because she didn't want to leave Angola. So it sounds like they caught one of them and someone just talked. Because from going to not really knowing the story at all to all of a sudden knowing the whole story. And so now Jackie Shroyer is in jail in Angola. Everyone in Minnesota, they can't get any more answers. Bo's family is going, we can't talk to anyone. Now Jackie is in jail. We don't speak Portuguese. We reach out to the embassy, nothing. And so now Jackie Shroyer is probably going to spend the rest of her life in an Angola prison, because she thought it was going to work out with a 24-year-old security guard that she was having an affair with and paid them allegedly to kill her husband. How nuts is that? Then it reminded me another story in the past couple weeks. Very recently, a dad in Wisconsin apparently met a woman from Uzbekistan on the internet or something. I don't know if it's a dating app. And he decided he was going to leave his family of 4 or 5 big family pictures. Everybody's smiling. And he's going to leave his family and go to be with his new crush over the internet in Uzbekistan. And so what he did was he brought his kayak, parked his truck by a lake, put his tackle box out or, put his gear out or something with the keys of the truck, flipped over the kayak and pushed it over so it looks like somebody went over into the water and drowned. So they drug that lake for weeks. They're like, if he drowned, we should be able to find him. Search parties looking for this guy. And then they figured out that his passport pinged in Canada the next day, and they think he went through Canada and then caught a plane to Uzbekistan. And same with Jackie Shroyer. It's like, you really think it's going to work out with the Uzbekistan lady and it's just going to be a happy rom-com existence and you're going to live happily ever after walking off in the Uzbekistan sun? It's probably going to go to hell immediately or after 6 weeks when you're living a real life together and it's not this sneaking around exciting love affair over the internet. Let's be together. I want to. Once you're actually just living a real relationship, the chances that it's going to work with the Uzbekistan lady is so small. And the same thing with Jackie Shroyer. You're going to stay in Angola. You think it's going to work with this kid. And then when it inevitably doesn't work with them, you can never go back to America and you never get to see your family again. It's some of the craziest decisions. Made me think of this story too. 10 years ago, I was getting my hair cut down in the East Village, and I'd gone to this guy. He was really quiet. He kind of looked like Turtle from Entourage, had the same style. He always wore a new era flat brim hat and a basketball jersey, and just seemed like a really quiet, nice dude, clean cut. And I'd gone and got my hair cut from him, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 times. So we were getting closer and getting more comfortable with each other. And then all of a sudden, he goes, I want you to see this. So funny. He was one of those ambiguously foreign guys. He could have been, I don't know where he was from, but he pulls out his cell phone once and he starts a video and he points it at me. And I didn't really take a great look at it, but it was a guy either having sex with a sheep or a donkey or something, and he's showing it to me, and I'm looking at it, I see what it is, and I'm kind of just hoping that he turns it away, and he looks at me with his face like this, and he goes, he's from Uzbekistan. And then he burst out laughing harder than maybe I've ever seen anyone laugh, as I was supposed to get it, and it was the funniest joke ever. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm never coming back to this dude. And I never did. I just found a new barber. I'm not trying to look at that stuff while I'm getting my hair cut. But when I heard that he bailed for a Uzbekistan lady, that's the first thing I thought about. And with the whole bailing to Uzbekistan, if you're going to use your passport in Canada and it's going to ping and easily leave the paper trail, why go through the whole thing of parking your truck and flipping the canoe and putting your tackle box out there? That just makes it even harder for your family. It's like, not only did Dad want to leave us, but he wanted to fake his own death so we wouldn't even... Not only did he want to leave the family, but he wanted us to think he was dead. So that feels great. That's going to be a few years of therapy down the road. Then also, the Angola story reminded me of another story that's for the book. So I'll tell this, and then we'll be done for the day. So in the 70s, the country of Africa in Uganda got a brutal, ruthless dictator named Idi Amin. If you've never watched a documentary on Idi Amin, it's pretty interesting. But he was a psychotic, just awful ruler. Big, intimidating guy. Forrest Whitaker played him in a movie and won. It's a historical fiction, but he won the Oscar for it. But this big dictator, and one of the worst things that he did was he thought one of his wives was sleeping with one of the security guards. That's one of the reasons it reminded me of this story. He thought one of his wives that he had children with, he had a bunch of wives, bunch of kids with all of them, but he thought one of them was having an affair with one of the security guards. So he had that wife, her body cut up into a bunch of pieces and then sewn back together, but everything in the wrong spot. So an arm in the wrong spot and the whole thing. And then he publicly displayed it in front of town and brought their kids that he had with that woman to see it. So Idi Amin, everybody. And why am I telling this story again? Oh yeah. And so as the stories of Idi Amin's administration of all of these killings and torture and all of this horrible stuff are starting to get out. It's the 70s, so information travels a lot slower back then. It's not like someone has a smartphone and they can take a video of something awful and then immediately post it, and the whole world is going, what's going on in Uganda? So all of these murders and torture chambers, the news gets out of Uganda and spreads around the world really slowly. But as it does, and as the news is coming out that maybe this Idi Amin guy is a complete psycho, 150 soldiers for the Uganda military were brutally massacred at their barracks. And the military was made up of a bunch of different tribes, and the rumor is that Idi Amin thought that this one tribe, they were his soldiers technically, but he thought that this one tribe was against them. He was very paranoid. He thought they were maybe going to do a coup. So the story is, allegedly, 150 of those soldiers that are in that tribe that he's worried about went out to do something, but they had it set up so when they got back to their barracks, there were people with guns to just massacre all of them. And so as the rumors get out, start making the news all over the world, 150 military members of the Uganda military were massacred. Was it the government? Was it this? Everybody's talking about it. And the Idi Amin and the government and the military saying, it wasn't us. It was this horrible thing. We didn't do it. We didn't spearhead it. It wasn't us. Well, an American journalist that he had wrote for a few publications that you would have heard of. So a pretty notable journalist, and his American, I think he was a college professor friend. So it's like an American journalist contacted Uganda and said, I want to write a story on this tragedy with the 150 slaughtered military personnel at the barracks. Is it okay to come in, cover the story? The world wants to know. I'm going to bring my college professor friend. And the government in Uganda said, yes, that's great. The family of the journalist and the college professor were saying, why would you go to Uganda right now? You've heard the stories that are coming out of it. But I think the journalist thought, no, we're protected. We're the press. They're already trying to make it look like they're not murderous psychos. They're not going to kill the journalist coming in reporting on the possible atrocities at the barracks. So that would be really bad for optics if everybody thinks they're doing all of these killings and then the journalist comes in to report on it and they kill the journalist. So I think we're safe. We're going to go in and report on it. So the journalist and his college professor friend drove a light blue Ford car from another country in Africa, and they drove to Uganda and then to the barracks. Well, they disappeared. Same thing with the Shroyer family. Their family in America is going, what happened to them? This is crazy. They went there to report on this story, and now they're missing. We want answers. And the Uganda government is going, we don't know what happened to them. They came, they looked at the barracks, they said, okay, they didn't see anything wrong, and they left. What are we supposed to do? We can't keep track of every swinging dick in the world. They're free people. They did their thing, and then they left. And we don't know where they went, and it's not our job to keep track of them. So imagine their family is just in utter hell. No one knows what happened. It's such a corrupt government in Uganda, it doesn't seem like they'll ever know. And then all of a sudden, the American embassy gets an anonymous phone call from somebody with a British accent saying that the journalist and the friend, college professor, had gone out to the barracks and were murdered, stabbed to death, just like Bo Shroyer, stabbed to death and then buried. And then that was the phone call. Well, they didn't know if it was true or who the guy on the phone was. He's got a British accent. I don't know. And then a time later, a soldier for Uganda went AWOL. He wanted to just leave the country and get out of there. And so he left and went to Tanzania. When he was in Tanzania, they interviewed him and debriefed him, and he had the full story and was actually a part of it in a way. And he said that the journalist and the college professor friend went out to the barracks and they stabbed him to death because the guards that were showing him the barracks thought they were, quote, proud. So because they were proud, they stabbed him to death, buried the stabbed bodies, and then that soldier that went to Tanzania and was being debriefed, he said then he was told to go dig up the stabbed bodies and burn them. So he did that. And kind of a darkly funny part of the story is one of the lower level military people started driving the light blue Ford car that the journalist and the friend professor had driven there in, started driving it around just Uganda, like, hey, everybody, I got a new car. Check out my new car. And then his boss in the military, like higher up in the military, had to scold him and say, what are you doing? The whole world is looking for this journalist. We're trying to not be the ones that kill him, and you're driving around their car around town like an idiot. Get rid of their car. What are you doing? So then they were told to bring the car 250 miles out to the most desolate bush that there is around that area, apparently, and they pushed it off a cliff. And then, so once the guy in Tanzania said, yeah, the car was pushed off this specific cliff in this really remote area, like officials wouldn't even go to the area. They said it's too dangerous, the wildlife, it's just too wild out there. But once the guy in Tanzania said, no, the car, I heard it was driven to there and then pushed off this cliff there, a local mountaineering club took that as well, we love climbing mountains. We climb mountains anyway, so let's just use this as a mission. And they hiked down the cliff, and it took forever, and eventually they did find the light blue Ford car. But isn't that wild? And Idi Amin, there was finally a coup. He was only in power for about 10 years. There was finally a coup, and he escaped to Saudi Arabia, where he lived out the rest of his life and died of old age. They asked him if he regretted anything, and he said in an interview he said he didn't regret anything that he did and only looked back on everything with nostalgia. What a psycho. All right, I'm cutting it off there. I love you all. See you next time. Why? Stiven Y. Sha.